A massive extension is on the horizon for the Dallas Cowboys, and I'm talking about the Dak Prescott extension. Jerry Jones, he teased something very big in his conversation with Stephen A. Smith, so we'll have that and much more on this episode of Cowboys Digest. Welcome in, everybody, to Cowboys Digest. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis. Thank you guys so much for the support that we got on the last video. But don't stop it right there. Make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and give me your thoughts on the Dak Prescott situation. But let's not waste any time. Let's get straight into it. Let's take a look here. If you listen to this interview, Jerry Jones talks about the next 5 years with Dak Prescott. That seems like a pretty big hint to me. And in things that I did not expect to happen in this NFL season, that was Stephen A. Smith having a sit down with Jerry Jones, the owner, the president, the general manager, the everything of the Dallas Cowboys. So this was a good interview. I saw a few tidbits of it. I haven't gotten the chance to check out the whole thing, but you got to guarantee yourself that I'm going to go ahead and do that, because it doesn't happen very often when an immaculate force meets an immovable object like Stephen A. Smith. So, I didn't expect that thing to happen out there, but hey, those two had to sit down. They hashed some things out. Jerry Jones threw a few shots Stephen A. Smith's way, and it was pretty respectful for the most part. Stephen A. was asking the hardest hitting questions that he could, and Jerry was answering them honestly. And if we take a look here, Dak Prescott on contract talks. I know both sides are working. Dak on what his feelings would be if a new contract isn't done by Sunday. People change their feelings daily. I can't say I have the same feelings that I had last week, and that's kind of a cryptic message. It's not giving too much away, but if you read into some of the comments that happened a little bit earlier last week, you would see that the sides were not close on an extension whatsoever. So for Dak to come out and say that, I feel like they are progressing in the right direction. And is this the right move? That's the big question mark, because you got to take the good with the bad, right? Like, we understand that Dak Prescott has come up short in the playoffs multiple times, and he has exceeded expectations tenfold, considering that he was a fourth-round draft pick and that he was making minimal money coming into the NFL. So he's lining up for a big payday. He's making big money right now, but he's going to get his bag over the course of the rest of his career, you would think so. Like, he has been one of the more consistent regular season quarterbacks, and it just hasn't necessarily translated to the playoffs, or at least we don't think so, right? But if you take a look at the best passer ratings in the playoffs, Dak Prescott is he's actually 19th on this list. So it cut off. I don't know why it cut off over there, so I'm sorry about that, guys. But you can see that Dak Prescott, well, you can't see it, but Dak Prescott is 19th on this list, and he's in some pretty good company. But at the end of the day, the Cowboys have not gotten over the hump. They haven't won a Super Bowl in almost 3 decades now, so the clock is ticking. And Dak Prescott, this kind of feels like a last chance for him, or at least we thought so. And this is the prediction for a Dak Prescott looking contract. Seems about right. You know, that's the market for a talented MVP level quarterback. $290 million over the course of 5 years, which comes out to about $58 million a season, $150 million guaranteed, and a $90 million signing bonus. So he's going to get his bag. He's going to be one of the highest paid players in NFL history, and for good reason. He deserves it. But now the question shifts to, if you sign Dak Prescott for another 5 years before this season plays out and they come up short in the playoffs, is it going to be the same story over and over again for the next 5 years of that contract? Now, like I mentioned earlier, you got to take the good with the bad. It's not always greener on the other side, and I'm talking about the grass. Like, you're not always going to find a better quarterback than what you have right now. Teams are always trying. They're always in a quarterback carousel. But once you have an elite guy, or a guy who's putting up elite production, you usually tend to lock him up, and you don't want to mess that thing up. And Jerry Jones, I think, acknowledges that. But at the same time, is Dak the one to get them over the hump? Now, let's take a look at 2 things here. So the first thing, we'll take a look at the playoff game between the Packers and the Cowboys from last year. That one was not on Dak Prescott. I know he threw two interceptions, one for a pick six, and he was a big reason why they just couldn't find their footing in that one. But the defense, which was heralded as the best in football, the defense that had the most takeaways, the defense that was dominant from game 1 to 17, they were nowhere to be found. They did not show up, and they allowed the Green Bay Packers, led by Jordan Love, who was good last year but not great, to put up 48 points on them. 41 if you don't want to count the pick six that Dak Prescott threw. So they allowed 41 points to the Green Bay Packers, and every single time that they had a chance to inch closer, they could not come up with a stop. Whether it was 3rd and long, whether it was 2nd and long, whether it was 3rd and short, they just could not get anything going defensively, and they were tired. They were on the field a lot. The Cowboys didn't have many sustained drives on the offensive side of things. But still, that one was not solely on Dak Prescott. But you go on the discourse on Twitter and you check out what's going on over there, everyone is blaming Dak for what happened. Everybody. And being the Cowboys quarterback comes with the territory. Once you wear that star on the side of your helmet, the one that you're seeing right there, there is an immense amount of pressure on you, whether you were the last pick in the draft or whether you were the first pick in the draft. So Dak, having exceeded all the expectations, being an amazing family man, being a great leader on and off the field for this Cowboys team, it's not enough. It is not enough unless he wins a Super Bowl. But can he win a Super Bowl? That is my question. We haven't seen it. He's over 30 now. So he's in his prime years. He's still a very good quarterback. Don't get me wrong. But once the going gets tough, is he going to be able to get the Cowboys out of a hole in the playoffs? Or are they going to revert back to square one and go ahead with the crap play calling? Or are they going to make defensive lapses? That is the big question mark. Now we see this. Jerry, he talks about the next 5 years with Dak Prescott. And he's not really hinting that he's going to look to go and pivot in another direction. And maybe that's smart, maybe it isn't. And like I mentioned earlier, like I'm going to mention right now, once you have someone in your franchise who has been consistent, embodies what you're trying to do, I think it's hard to let a guy like that go. But then the question becomes, if Dak is making, let's say, $58 million like this contract is predicting here, are you going to be able to surround him with the players that he needs to win a Super Bowl? Because he's a very good quarterback, but is he elite? Is he at the Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes level, Lamar Jackson level? No, he isn't. So he's not able to necessarily be the focal point, and the Cowboys don't necessarily have the weapons that they did in years past. CeeDee Lamb is locked up for the future, which is great. They needed to get that done. But Rico Dowdle is going to be your running back one. Either him or Ezekiel Elliott, who does not look like Zeke of old. So you're going to have to find other ways to win. Your defense is going to have to step it up. And you're going to have to pay Micah Parsons as well. So there's not that much money to go around if you're giving $58 million to Dak Prescott. And we take a look at the San Francisco 49ers, for example. They are a blueprint of how things should be done. They got lucky by picking Brock Purdy in the last pick of the draft, and he turned into an exceptional quarterback, someone that they can rely on game in, game out. And for that reason, he's not making that much money right now because he was the last pick in the draft. He's in line for a big payday once he does hit free agency. No doubt about that. But because he's making a minimal salary right now compared to other players on his team, they're able to retain guys like Trent Williams, Brandon Ayuk, Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey. They have an amazing supporting cast. They have a team of world beaters centered around a quarterback who is a very good game manager. And it's not a knock on Brock Purdy. He was the last pick in the draft, and he's about to get paid. So good for him. Like, he's found a home in the National Football League. But is he a guy who's supposed to make $60 million? No, but you can win that way. You can win that way with a quarterback not making too much money and having other superstar players surrounding him. Like, almost half the San Francisco roster was in contention for a Pro Bowl selection. So it just shows you how much they've built the rest of their roster around a QB who is making not that much money. And I think that is a blueprint that many teams can follow, but you have to be able to identify talent and make a draft pick like a Dak Prescott in the 4th round and take advantage of those years where they aren't making too much money so you can surround them with talent. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of Cowboys Digest. Thank you guys so much for making it this far. Appreciate it. And make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well, and give me your thoughts on whether or not you think Dak Prescott should be getting this amount of money. It's a lot, but that is the going rate for a quarterback who finished second in the MVP race last year to Lamar Jackson. But thanks again, guys. Give me your thoughts in the comments down below. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you tomorrow.